So, R-32 escaped. The Riven, a monstrous human-arachnid hybrid, violently attacked an elite squad of the Hunters. The Wardens patrol silently, faceless sentinels in black suits, helmets, and mirrored visors that hide any trace of human identity, earning them their chilling nickname, the Terminators. The prototypes are the final failsafe, post-human defense units built to erase anomalies that defy logic, time, or reality. They're constructs of synthetic flesh, stolen DNA, and fractured AI consciousness, grown in zero-gravity vats and fused with black-grade weapon systems. Lastly, the Hunters are the boots on the ground, the ones who capture what should never be found. Born from war, forged in shadows. They don't exist on any official record, just black operations with ancient purpose. Their origins trace back to post-World War II, occult programs when global powers dug too deep into forgotten myth and unearthed more than they could bury. Hunters track, trap, and extract cryptids, anomalies, and broken fragments of myth. They're highly trained, highly expendable. On the day of the breach, you said the lights never turned on the same way again. But you said that wasn't the real threat. That this, everything we've seen, it all goes deeper?
Deeper than D7.
Deeper how? What are we talking about now?
You've heard the word, Atlantis. I know how it sounds, but it's not a myth. It was real. And what sank wasn't just a city. It was a civilization that split itself in half.
The Thalassari and the Kailari?
Yeah, the ones who went down. The ones who didn't just adapt to the sea. They became it. While the Kailari looked to the stars, the Thalassari worshipped the abyss. Osanur, they called it. A god of pressure and memory. They saw the sea as a womb, a cathedral, a machine that could rebuild them, so they engineered themselves.
Are you telling me we found Atlantis?
We found something worse. If D7 was hell, then Project Leviathan was its Mariana Trench. What has been, will be again. What has been done, will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Our archaeologists found Atlantis. Let that sink in. Not a myth. Not a misunderstood metaphor. Real, physical, hidden beneath tectonic folds near the Pacific Rim, perfectly preserved beneath a crust of ancient volcanic rock. And what we found inside, they weren't like us. They weren't like anyone. We unearthed corridors of stone, reinforced by living metal, and walls etched with what looked like DNA, molecular blueprints carved in crystal. The air shimmered with latent electromagnetic resonance, like the place remembered being alive. We recovered skeletal remains, unlike anything on record, elongated vertebrae, bioluminescent bone calcification, gill structures fused alongside lungs, engineered, not evolved. The message was clear. They were the children of gods, or the memory of them, and they had seen the end coming. Plato told only part of the story. In Timaeus and Critias, he described Atlantis as a mighty naval empire that clashed with a noble, prehistoric Athens and sank in a single day and night of destruction. But what he omitted, what he couldn't comprehend, was the reason for that fall. Atlantis tore itself apart. Inside its golden towers and deep-water sanctuaries, two ideologies divided its people. The Kailari, futurists who believed in leaving Earth. They sought to ascend toward the stars, become one with celestial intelligences, and transcend biology through dimensional migration. The Thalassari, purists of the sea, devotees of an entity they called Ozenur, the deep mind. They believed salvation lay not in escaping Earth, but in returning to its womb, the abyss. They aimed to reshape themselves into aquiline beings, capable of surviving the ocean's cold, pressure, and psychic silence. One looked up, the other sank down. War followed. Sabotage, biotech warfare, a civil collapse triggered by radical Thalassari sabotage of the central infrastructure. Not a natural disaster, but a final act of devotion. Atlantis didn't fall by divine punishment. It sank by design. Before the fall, the Thalassari built an ark, not to flee the destruction, but to live through it. They called it Abyssaeum, an aquatic metropolis in the Hadal zones, deeper than tectonic folds, immune to time and heat. There, they focused entirely on genetic engineering, dredging DNA from bioluminescent predators and life forms that existed outside conventional understanding. One organism was recovered from a trench so deep it distorted time. What they created with it was called many things. The Thalassari Atlanteans, or perhaps they're just a genetically engineered offshoot of their lineage. Some theories suggest they could even descend from the Atlantean queen herself. We believe these beings possess extremely long lifespans.
How do you know all of this information you're telling me?
When we discovered Atlantis, or rather, what remains of it, we found ancient tablets that took years to decipher. Additionally, when we encountered her, we couldn't communicate verbally due to the language barrier, but our technology allowed us to establish telepathic communication. Through this, she corroborated what we'd learned from the tablets. However, for some reason, she refused to confirm her personal identity or clarify whether she was indeed the queen.
You didn't explain exactly what you found. Are you saying it's some kind of aquatic creature that originated from Atlantis 12,000 years ago?
But we know her now as Leviathan. 6 years ago, our submersible drone vanished in the Tonga Trench. A submersible recorded 72 hours of data, but only 6 minutes had passed on the surface, which we didn't find out until later. 4 months later, it returned, coated in salt, barnacles, and something else. A humanoid creature, wrapped around it like living kelp. We didn't recognize her at first. Taller than a human, with fluid limbs, translucent scales, gills webbed beneath her ribs. Her eyes were black mirrors, not reflecting your face, but something behind it. We called her Nereid 01. We thought we had captured her, but she led us. Brought into sublevel 20 of D7, Leviathan was placed under quadruple reinforced containment. Physical, biological, psychic, and ontological. It didn't matter, because Leviathan didn't need to move. She was already inside. The dream started first. Staff waking up soaked in seawater. Drawings of symbols no one recognized, but every symbol matched. Some began speaking in unknown languages. Others tried to breathe underwater. One drowned in the hydrofiltration bay, whispering, "She has returned, the queen of the drowned, the last Thalassari." Her DNA was a mosaic, a 4-layered genetic code, each one programmable, each one alien. More importantly, she was not a creature. She was a node, a living psychic relay between this world and something far older, something deeper. Used her tissue to create prototypes, failures, Hydra X, a regenerating multi-limbed monstrosity that split itself into smaller beings and reassembled. The Ascension Project wasn't ours. It never was. The Thalassari called it the sinking path, a biological journey of return, of transformation, of remembrance. The Kalari had the rising spiral, space-bound integration with higher intelligences. Both altered themselves, but only one remained. Leviathan showed us visions, the city of Abyssaeum, alive, pulsing with choral and living song. The returners, those who completed the sinking path, no longer human, no longer singular. They were the hive thought of the ocean. They weren't waiting to invade, they were waiting to be remembered. One day, her cell was empty. No breach, no alarm, just silence. In her place, coral bloomed across the floor. Etched in salt on the chamber wall was a message. She is free. The tide is rising. The drowned remember. We still try to pretend D7 is operational. We still pretend the Thalassari didn't win. But every faucet in the lower levels leaks salt. Every reflection lags for half a second too long. Staff have begun humming, low, harmonic tones, perfectly synchronized without realizing it. One wrote a message across the mirror in blood. Ozanur has awoken. Leviathan wasn't a prisoner. She was a seed. We didn't find Atlantis. It found us, and when it looked into us, it remembered what we forgot. Lieutenant Adrian Volk, final mission log, redacted. Inside a dormant Thalassari outpost, buried beneath a salt-locked trench wall, Kraken's fang unearthed a pulsating bioorganic node, alive and humming. It was fused to the structure like a heart inside a ribcage. When breached, it released a neural echo. Not data, but memory, compressed into a cascading thought wave. It wasn't a file, it was a path, a spiral encoded in resonance patterns, a song map leading to a place whispered only in fragmented glyphs, the Hollow Throne, a place no one believed still existed. Atlantis. 3 days later, Kraken's fang deployed in Chronostris, a DSV retrofitted with memory stabilizers and temporal dampeners. Target depth, 15,400 meters. Trench zone, Kermadec sub-axis. Conditions, hostile. Irregular gravity pockets, spatial folds. Every crew member was sealed in Hadal Class 5, 13R exoframes. Neural firewalls synced to suppress psionic drift and hallucination bleed. They dove into darkness. Beyond 9,000 meters, color failed. The trench narrowed into a subcrustal fissure, the walls alive with glyphs that moved like seaweed in current. They emitted low-frequency chants the suits translated as half-words: womb, memory, oblivion. Then the trench opened, and the descent ended in awe. It sprawled across a chasm like a broken star, ruins wrapped in coral and stone flesh, towers bent under their own memory. Whole buildings blinked with residual psychic light, as if they were trying to remember what they used to be. At the center stood a shattered ring of crystal, the skeletal remains of an energy dome that once covered the city. Here, silence was not absence, it was presence, and they were not alone. The Atlanteans were not all dead. They were changed, degenerated, beautiful, terrifying, pale-skinned, black-eyed, with coral-tusked jaws and fins that sliced through the water like knives through thought. When Kraken's fang approached the central spire, they attacked, an underwater war. Sonic weapons clashed with bone-blade harpoons. Water turned crimson with memory blood. Voices shrieked in sonar dialects that made men forget their names. Inside the central spire was a living altar, not made of stone or bone, but thought-hardened memory, a fragment of Osanur's consciousness. Commander Voss activated the chrono anchor, and the city woke up. Buildings groaned, coral sang, the waters trembled with 1,000 unspoken voices, rising in unison to echo a message burned into every diver's skull. We are not extinct, we are submerged. Only 5 of the original team escaped. The rest were absorbed. Some converted, some chose not to leave. Back aboard the Chronostrus, the survivors each shared the same dream. A woman, skin of sea glass, eyes of memory, her voice a whisper. The throne is hollow, the city remembers, but we were not the only ones who ascended. That was the last coherent statement before the Chronostrus went dark. In the decoded remains of the hollow throne's spire core was something unexpected. A signal, not to the sea, to the stars. A communication stream firing into deep space, continuously, rhythmically, intentionally. What it carried was not Thalassari, it was Kailari. While the Thalassari descended into the depths to become gods of pressure, the Kailari chose silence. They went up, not in ships, but in thought, and they are still out there, waiting. The Thalassari descended, but the Kailari, their rivals, were never destroyed. They transcended. Atlantean engineers, philosophers, and synthetic biologists, those who believed the stars were our birthright, not the sea. Their science turned inward, then upward. Not rockets, not wormholes, dimensional migration via synthetic consciousness. They mapped the soul, fragmented it, launched it. Inside the spire's star signal were fragments of digital souls, calorie thought forms stored in crystallized data light, riding on cosmic radiation. Memories, beliefs, echoes of Atlantean minds. They had formed a colony in orbit, not physical, conceptual, a ghost civilization, orbiting Earth in a layer of darkened awareness, invisible to satellites, but detectable through neural resonance scans. The Thalassari became coral and current. The Kailari became frequency and light. Weeks after the signal from Atlantis was recovered, D7's orbital listening posts picked up a pulse. Contained within was a simple encoded phrase, "You must choose," and coordinates to a point in the upper ionosphere where time does not pass correctly. The zone is now classified Skyfall Omega. We now believe the Ascension Project was never about becoming more. It was about choosing which direction to transcend, the deep into the blood-warm dark, and the memory of Earth or the stars, into ice, silence, and the echo of minds that never forgot Leviathan was the seed of the sea. But above us, something else has been watching. D7 and the rest of humanity was denounced for the sins we were still committing. The D7 facility, the black projects all in the name of Ascension, and the horrors that took place there was just a projection of the rest of humanity.